That's all we asked for.
Okay, well, let's call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone to the October 7th meeting of the Board of Education, Delaware Bay Community College. We call this meeting to order at 5:02 p.m. I'd like to welcome our guests. Thanks for being with us tonight. And we will move right into the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from September? Have any questions or corrections? I think we've moved here the minutes.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, thank you. Let's have the personnel report with Patty.
All right, the Dean of Instruction, we have another interview scheduled for this Friday, in person. And we've had a slurry of applications come in this last week. So good to have an second interview and others to look at. So that's kind of still ongoing. Tutoring and testing specialist, we've had an interview for that last week, at the end of last week, and had a few more applications come in over the weekend. So IT specialist, that one's been posted, and we just had another few applications come in over the weekend. That was nice, since that one's kind of a specialized IT one. We do have two positions in workforce development, CTE. We've got a workforce development support specialist. So that's been reposted, and we should start. We've had one application so far. I should have them trickling in. It's a basic entry kind of support specialist. And we have a workforce development and apprentice coordinator position. So that one just got posted, and it's a little more technical and more specific to the industry. So we could get some interest on it.
That's great. Thank you. Do you have any questions for Kylie? I will entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I so know.
Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. So now it's time for public comment available at the beginning of the meeting. It's an opportunity for the public to comment on any issue within the jurisdiction of the Tillamook Bay Community College Board of Education. Do we have anyone who'd like to make public comment? All right, we will move right on to new business. 4A is Board Policy 2300, Board Meeting Procedures. This is a second reading and an action item.
Yeah, thank you. So we have the next two items are board policies and a reading for them. We discussed them last board. There haven't been any changes to these, and so if the board, I think we need to address them separately, but we would be asking for adoption of these new policies and at the same time to rescind the policies that they were. Indicated the items there, information item as far as which policies to rescind.
You know, I noticed that it says it's always the first Monday of the month, which isn't always true. Because of holidays, so not just according to the adopted calendar, or
Maybe it should say
Just- generally, except for holidays.
I think we
That's
can,
pretty nitpicky.
but I think that you're right. I mean, I think that's the regularly scheduled time, but we could figure out some language I can put in there as far as, unless the first Monday falls on
Seems like it's always January and September.
January and September. So
And maybe which months we don't meet. But that depends on whether it's voting, election, Congress, or whatever.
would you like that edited before you?
No, I think you can say.
Okay.
Public notice kind of covers any normal.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think just like we did on the second sentence of that regular board meetings, it says regular meetings shall normally be held in or on the campus. I think we should say regular meetings shall normally be held on the first Monday of every month.
Yeah. The word normally.
Yeah.
Take care of.
Yeah, okay. We'll do it.
Can you direct us to the language of which policies we are rescinding?
Yes, I sure can. So we are rescinding board policy 101 with this one.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt board policy 2300 and rescind board policy 101.
I will, motion to adopt board policy 2300 and rescind board policy 101.
A second.
Second, further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
The next board policy is BP 2710, conflict of interest. This would replace board policy 105, which we would need a motion to rescind that at the same time as approving this one. The language is almost identical to BP 105. It had just been, the numbers have been changed to be consistent with our numbering policy, and a little bit of subtle changes to the language to make it even more clear. But for the most part, it's really similar to before, and there haven't been any changes to the second reading from the first.
Questions, comments on this policy, changes? None. I will entertain a motion to approve board policy 2710 and to rescind 105.
Move that we approve 2710 and replace 105.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Item C is the 2025 to 2026 budget development timeline.
So we have CFO Montazeri and I put together a tentative, I'll say tentative, although we'll do our best to stick to a budget development timeline. It's that time of year where we're closing last year, working this year, and developing next year. So this 25-26 budget development timeline is what we hope to stick to be able to present to you probably in April, a first budget committee meeting for approval of the proposed budget. There is a lot of work that has to come in front of that, obviously. CFO Montazeri has been working really diligently to work on the 23-24 fiscal year audit. Getting ready for that. We hope to have that completed by the end of the year. That's the one that we have not entire control over, but we're doing our best to be able to meet that goal. And if we can do that, what that would allow us to do, one of the things that's a little bit differently this year in our budget development timelines from maybe what you've seen in the past is that we built into the timeline a couple campus-wide budget forums. We really want to work to get the general campus population more engaged in the development of the budget, the prioritization of budget expense. And so we have a couple of those built in there, and all of those will proceed ultimately as bringing to you. I think some key things that you'll see is in February. We'll present assumptions and guidelines to you for approval around changes to any particular compensation packages and things like that. We'll also present the first conversation of a recommendation around tuition approval. And then we'll ask for that tuition approval in March. So that'll all just kind of lead up to that. But I don't think you'll see much from us about the budget until January. You want to add anything to that, Sherry?
Just a couple of sentences. So we are scheduled, I think I said this in the board meeting that we have, that we are scheduled to have the auditor here on campus on mid-November. And we still have a little bit more of cleaning up to that I need to work on. But we have made a lot of good progresses. I mean, between last Friday and weekends with my brilliant ideas that I had to work on. And then today putting some of them in place. I think we are we will be prepared for that November 15. I think we will be prepared, and I think we're gonna have a good audit on that time. Also, I'm trying to create the budget share so that in J1, because I know one of the things that when I took over last year was that the budget, even though was designed and approved and all of that, but it wasn't in J1. So I'm trying to kind of slowly build that share also and have it ready so that we can stick with this timeline that we have. Unless there is a big surprise with the audit, I think we should be really in a good position to be on time with all these deadlines that we have set.
Thank you.
So this was just for information items, no action, I don't think needed on this. As I mentioned, we'll be working on over the next 3 months. Looking at any new position requests that the college might have and working to prioritize all of those, completing our audit so that we know what our likely beginning fund balance is for this year, so we can be more accurate about our ending fund balance for the current year. And then, work on bringing to you some recommendations from the college about where we might invest in some funds. And of course, all of this, just because I have to say this in Oregon, all of this before we have any clue how much money we're going to get from the state, which is, which we won't know that until probably July 1st.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On to item D, which is selection of OCCTE Foundation Board.
Yeah, I presented this on last month, discussion around, the desire to have one of our board members serve on this foundation, board member for career technical education work in Tulane County. This is for county-wide work. Since then, Andrea, unless she's changed her mind, has offered to
Yeah.
Here we go again. But I think it'll be relatively painless, but I think it's important that, the OC, this is the Oregon Co-CTE Foundation Board. We're really looking at aligning career technical education development across K-14 in the county. Each of the school districts, in addition to TBCC, will have membership on this board so that we can really work to move some of this forward in a concerted manner. So I think it will be relatively famous. Relative.
Thank you for volunteering.
And I think that would likely take an action from this board to appoint her.
I've been late to the last 2 meetings we've had here this week and to remind you. So do you need a motion? Please. With that, I will make a motion that Andrea should be on the board of OCCTE.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much, Andrea, for
Thank you.
serving in that capacity.
See how quickly your board supports you.
Yeah, I do.
Very supportive.
Yes, we are.
Okay, item E are the board's goals for 2024, 2025.
Yeah, so this is at our board retreat on October 1st. We discussed the board goals for the upcoming academic year 24-25. We discussed really wanting to have goals structured in a way that support our strategic priorities. So we developed this draft list of board goals for 24-25. And should the board want to edit this, we certainly can edit this today if you would like. But if the board does adopt this, I will work with Lori then to convert it more into a working document that we track progress on, just like we have before. But this, I think, kind of like how the type of goals that we have in support of our strategic priorities now that we were to work and can help move some of that. So if there are any questions or edits or changes, anybody wants to make or suggest, we certainly.
I just have a question about the word diligent.
Yeah,
What is that? That's my question.
diligent is, if you remember, we had a presentation from an individual from Diligent about managing the board meetings on a web-based platform that's called Diligent. And it's also the product that we'll use to house, organize our board policies and academic or administrative rules. So really, basically, the Diligent is that at some point, we'll be asking you all to attempt to make that move to switch over to that digital platform, and we'll prepare you for that and train you for that, whatever. So that's what that piece was right there. That's what.
Thank you for the refresh.
And the goal really is to just have a more faithful way to organize board meetings and materials from an operational sense for us for putting them together, but also you to have access to those things in a digital world. We also can still do paper things, packets as we had with one past.
More questions on this? Do we want a minute to review it?
Our lives easier. I think the way that we measure it is important. Smart, something that's specific.
And that's what I'll work on developing from this, yeah.
Timing and the measurement timeline.
Timelines for sure.
I think it's an excellent document. I can't think of anything to add, and I really approve it.
No, it's nice.
Right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to item 5A, which is mission fulfillment and student belonging.
Right.
Director McCarley and Director Casey White.
Yeah, I think you want to come up?
Sure.
If you don't, I'll end up talking too much.
Wow.
It's been a day.
Sure, yes.
It's been a day.
Yes.
I need some support.
Are you mission fulfilled out? Are you?
It's fulfilled.
You're-
You just can't tell with what, right?
Yes, right. So as you recall, what we've started to do and what we'll continue to do throughout the year is come to you every board meeting and speak about one of our mission fulfillment metrics. Last month was a conversion rate, and that was a really cool conversation about the percentage of students who are moving from application through to becoming enrolled students here at the college. We talked about fraud, and that was, I didn't think it would be as interesting as it was. I have to be perfectly honest, but that was like a really cool conversation. So we'll try to keep up with that. So the second measure in our mission fulfillment
set of metrics is student belonging. And so Eileen Casey White is here as our Title III director, because the metric we use to measure student belonging is a metric that we share with Title III. As we cast around to develop the metrics for mission fulfillment, I brought together, I like to call it my data committee. It was Eileen and me, right? And Geza, our former math instructor, right? So it was the three of us who got together to sounds so lofty, but it was the three of us who got together to develop those metrics. And so Eileen knows these metrics as nearly as well as I do. And so what we were looking for, and I can't believe I don't have the placemat in front of me, but what we're looking for is some sense, because, if you think about the second priority or the first priority rather.
It's not on there.
It's not on there. Oh, yeah, no, it's fine. If you think about the first priority in the strategic plan, it's about creating an exceptional student experience, right? And we know students stick around if they feel engaged in the college. And how do we measure that, right? How do we know that we're doing that? And the Title III grant is really a big, it's got multiple components, but one of those components is about building the skills of our student success coaches to help them to engage students in different and more meaningful ways. Well, we got to measure that. We've got to demonstrate that we're having that impact. And so we really cast around for different ways to assess that impact. I'll go to the next slide. Well, and everybody's favorite diagram, but we can move on from there because we all just know it so well. We live it, love it. So pass these around. So I wanted to show you the measure that we use currently. It's the sense of belonging scale. Try to avoid, I try to avoid making up questions whenever possible. Because no matter how great they sound, it doesn't mean that they're valid or reliable at all, right? A face validity is not really a thing.
Oh, I don't care. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just feel like I can't see the board. So.
Yeah. So sitting around the survey, so I wanted to give you a sense of what the questions are, right? So it breaks out into 4 subscales: perceived peer support, class comfort, faculty support, and isolation. And the goal is that students will demonstrate a feeling of increased peer support, increased class comfort, feel more comfortable in class, increased faculty support, and decreased feelings of isolation. And the way that we have set out to collect these data is as a pre-post measure. We collect the data from our fall cohort, right? Our new students to TBCC in the fall term, usually we shoot for mid-November, and then we collect the data again in May, right? And this is kind of your classic pre-post little mini experiment, hoping that what we see in May is that students are demonstrating increased scores. And while that sounds great in Psychology 101, with introduction to experiments, that's really tough data collection because it's just really hard to get the pretest. To get students to complete that survey at the pretest, and then really hard to get those post-tests, right? To get that paired response, we're just not getting the completion rate that we need. Jump in.
I will jump in. So I want to give you a little background about how we chose it for Title III. So Title III is a Student Services Redesign Grant. So we're going into year 4 of a 5-year grant. And it had a big component around redesigning the way we serve students. That's really kind of, it actually, the acronym is RESHAPE. That's where success coaches come from. That's where the investment in the foundation and bringing in development coordinator comes from. It's where the nursing program comes from. All of those are supporting student success. And so originally we had a measure, it was called the Lassie, which is more like a student study skills inventory kind of a tool. And that was what was built into the grant proposal. We looked at it the first year and said, this is not measuring what our grant is designed to do. And so that's when we landed on the sense of belonging. And in particular, can we back up just for a sec on that? Particular, the perceived peer support and the decreased isolation are really what the intention of pieces like the success coach advising and that connection and tracking and support is intended to do. We're not doing as much in the classroom. Certainly we're doing learning communities and our faculty will be involved in all of that, but we're not measuring or impacting how they teach, how they interact in the classroom. There's no faculty development. So it didn't make sense for the grant to use those measures. However, when we looked at the tool, it was like, well, this is something that the whole college could use these data. And so we're really looking at how well do they feel like they're being supported? And we give it in November rather than in September. Like we could give it a new student orientation, but they're new students. So they couldn't tell you how isolated or peer supported they are. But that does make it tricky because then they're a ways into their courses where we've talked about trying to get it, to give it, as they're getting ready to register for winter term. But it's been a tricky piece. And if we don't capture all of them, then in the spring, we can only really survey the ones who took it in the fall. So if you only get 50 and then some of those leave, you're down to about 20 or 25 by the time it gets to it. Yes,
So do you give it to them in class?
No,
we
Why
don't.
not?
because they're not all in the same.
They're not
class.
all the same class.
Well,
They're all in multiple different.
right,
classes.
and that's also a problem, because if I were taking this, I might have a class that is great, and everything's fine, and this other class, But if it was given in some time, but monitored by a teacher, then you're gonna get some results.
Right.
If you just say, do it on your own.
That's what's
Well,
been
and that's
really
the
hard.
tricky part, right?
That's been
Yeah,
really hard.
yeah. So the data collection is just really challenging. And so the approach we've taken is to put I'll call it a burden on the success coaches to collect it, right?
Yeah.
So they each have the students in their learning communities and they know exactly who's completed it, who hasn't. We update the list every week. And so they know who to go after. And so who to go after, listen to me. Right. And so they're asking and they're poking,
Following up.
and it's just, it's right. And it's really, okay, that's,
A nicer way to say
yeah,
it.
okay.
Badgering is
And
the
so
other.
it's just, it's so much resource for this tool that, so of the 105 last fall, 105 students in our fall cohort, I think we got 65 pre-tests, right? Great. So then, which is better than we got the year before. And so then of the post-tests, we got, I want to say like 25 match pairs of those 65. Yeah.
Yes,
No.
because you can only ask for
Data
65.
or not, that is not representative. I mean, that's just, so those are the data we have here. Yeah, it's just
Sometimes
not
I think
useful.
to make it happen, you almost have to force it.
Well, and
English
we're not
class,
sure how to
whatever
do
class,
that.
Whatever class they're in, they have to at least take it.
Yeah.
Well, and that
That's
is,
the
that is
part, yeah.
part of it. So there's a couple of ways we looked at it. So today, in fact, when we were sharing this with the accreditation team, they looked at that number and said, well, this doesn't really match. You've
Yeah.
got good retention, you've got good support. You need a different tool.
Yeah.
And we went, oh yeah, that's one way to go. Another way to go is to think of this not as a lagging indicator, sort of a pre-post, but to give it in the fall and then use it as a leading indicator to inform what's happening the rest of the year. That if we see that students are reporting in whatever class they're in, we can just tell them pick a class. And it would help us be able to deliver the services in a different way through winter and spring. So are we finding another tool? But we've already
Yeah.
changed horses twice.
So,
yeah.
question, have you thought about using some kind of incentive? Meaning, just like a, a lot of times with surveys, they'll say, hey, do this survey, do the second one, and you'll get like a.
We tried carrots and sticks.
Oh,
We
that's
said,
okay.
maybe we should tell them they can't register for winter until winter, which doesn't seem like a good message to send.
No.
And honestly, we've even put it on a QR code where they can sit there while they're meeting with their coach and take 3 minutes to zoom, 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 zoom. Still, they're like, oh, I'll do it later. And so, yeah, so we have tried many, many different models.
And I wish I could say, and so here's what we're gonna do,
Yeah.
solve it, and we don't have it solved.
We don't have
Yeah,
it.
we don't know what we're gonna do, but we really have to figure it out because it's October. And we.
But we are open to suggestions. I like the fact that you're saying, hey,
Well,
maybe we need to peg it to a course or
I
a
gave
couple of
this, I
courses.
gave similar things to my students but they were third graders.
Right.
So, third grade teacher, you're all gonna fill this out.
We even talked about getting extra credit in a class.
Right.
The teacher
But we
just
can't
meant
do that.
takes 5 minutes out of the course that day.
Yeah.
We're all filling this out, whether you like it or not. We're all gonna fill it out.
Another,
And here's a candy
Yeah.
bar for different.
well, and there's another option that came up was, all students are on Canvas. And so there is a way to have a pop-up come up every time they go on Canvas until it annoys them enough. Okay, fine, I'll take it, but, you know,
And then
But
you
that
have your
tool is quite
students online.
expensive.
yeah, that tool is
That
expensive.
functionality would cost us quite a bit of money.
Does
Is it
the-
worth it for this tool? So we're trying to figure out.
And there was no students online. That's a whole different. mess.
Well, all students, I think, have to at some point do part of their work online. So everybody has an online component to their class. So there is that, they, even if it's just to turn in assignments or check their grades or I don't know what they do.
So.
Does the match pair really matter that much?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If
You
we
take
just give
away
it
the
once,
anonymity by forcing a match pair, or really the theme of collaborating, going in, going out, would be more important data than.
just in general.
Yeah, I would feel more pressured if I know you're gonna match up the pair on how I felt coming in and coming out. I'm probably less likely to fill it out.
So it would be like a group number.
Yeah.
So measure
Total,
everybody in
measure.
fall and then measure everybody in spring.
And
You have valid data by doing that, and you
Yeah.
really get
For that number.
and anonymity is, which is probably what you're kind of looking for.
Which actually, that has been a concern expressed both by some students, but also by some faculty, that they feel uncomfortable with some of these questions, answering them, and they don't know. And if they have to put their student number, where does that go? And so I do recognize that could help address some of the concerns that faculty in particular have about supporting this and giving it out in the classes, for example.
I like it.
So
That's
that
an
might
interesting
be,
idea.
and if it was just a group
It's the
percentage.
shades.
group
It's the
average.
shades. Well. that's the-
But it is, that is, yeah, that's part of it.
Does it decrease the viability of the information? If you don't have the match pair?
No, it's just, it increases the variability, right? So with a matched pair, you're comparing somebody with themselves, right? So so it decreases the standard deviation, right, or the but if you're comparing two groups, those two groups are different. You need to see greater change between the groups, right? You would need those tests in spring to be, that average score in spring to be bigger. To think that actually student sense of belonging in spring was actually better in spring. But yeah, but that's
That's matched pairs,
You could do that.
your sensible belonging becomes a snapshot instead of a sensible belonging that is.
Not changing the time, yeah.
And I do like your comment that you had about it depends on the class.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, I mean, not so much on the peer one and the isolation one, but on the class support, it certainly would depend on which class you're
It
thinking of.
does matter who's teaching.
Oh,
But because they're gonna open up discussion, if they feel comfortable, fine. But how do you know what class they're talking about? So how can you fix a problem if they don't know what the problem is?
Yeah.
So it's a little too broad.
Yeah. Good point. Well, thank you all. This has been.
Thank you.
Okay, you give us a lot to think about. Thank you. Yeah.
But I feel like the hospital service. Optional.
Well, if you decide that the match pair is really important, then the idea might be a carrot. Is for every matched pair, that name goes in the pot for winning something like really great, like $500.
Oh.
So really encourage. I would happily donate it to that donut.
Okay, okay.
Write that down.
Okay.
Put that in the minutes.
Oh, you-
Still make
six
changes.
packs.
They're not all 21.
That-
Yeah, that's great.
That's great, great discussion, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And we certainly don't.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to item B, which is the SAO workforce development discussion with Joanne Patel.
So I'm gonna hand out, I'm gonna start the board first here. This is just an example of what our SAO planning tool on Weave looks like. So this is a report that. But this is covers like all of the work that has been done under non-credit training. Workforce training.
Did you share this with our accreditors today?
They already have, so Erin had already passed it out to them, so I was going to.
I encouraged Joanne to share this just because because her act is tight, you know. She's got her business all tight in Weave and so I did put this report in the materials that were shared with our evaluators and I thought, gosh, share it with the board too, because I said it looks good. And she's not going to talk about all her SAOs because she's got some good ones. We told her to kind of tighten it
No,
up.
we're just doing mine here.
Narrow it down is a better way to put it.
Okay, so I'm Joanne Critelli, and I am the coordinator for the coordinator for community ed and continuing education and the truck driving program. So you probably think of me in the truck driving. So with non-credit workforce development, you probably think of truck driving, but I do more than just truck driving. So I have two areas, community ed, community education, and the non-credit workforce development. So this SAO is focused on the non-credit workforce development. And so the definition that I'm working under is that TBCC serves local business and industry training needs through innovative contract education opportunities. So you'll see this aligns with our strategic plan. So the strategic priority, community engagement and awareness. The strategic objective is increase the percentage of organizational partners who report a shared sense of direction with TBCC. And then the strategic initiative, build relationships and partnerships throughout Tillamook County to provide expanded opportunities for students. And you'll see as I go along that it will come back. We might have to come back and look at that slide again, but I think you'll see how this happens. So I had in that area for just this particular area of the providing the opportunities, I had two goals. So the first SAO goal was to increase opportunities for local business and industry for contract training. So in 2022-23, we had 2 contract trainings that were offered. My goal for this 23-24 year was to have 3, and I actually exceeded that goal because we had 7 contract trainings offered.
Wow.
What are they?
Pardon?
What are they?
Oh, they're coming up. So then the second goal was to increase contract training revenue. So in 22-23, we had $11,550 in contract training revenue. In 2024, my goal was to generate $33,300 in contract training revenue, and I exceeded that goal with $41,959 in contract training revenue. So examples of contract training, right? So we have the ODOT uses our snowplow did a snowplow driver training with our CDL truck simulators. So we did that for a couple years with ODOT. I think they may have liked it so much, I think they may have bought their own simulator now, so we may have lost them, I'm not sure. And then I personally offered some wellness workshops introducing the Zentangle method, and that was with Adventist Health and with Tillamook PUD. And then another example is customized English for speakers of other languages training, and that is the one I'm going to be focusing on in depth for this presentation. So we have a partnership with Tillamook County Creamery Association. So for the English for speakers of other languages, also known as ESOL, classes were customized for the Tillamook County Creamery employees, and the initial focus was on the production line and safety. So our instructors go on site, go through the production line, see what the, how the production's running, find out what the words are they want to translate and help the Spanish speaking folks to understand what the English terms are for the safety. And so the creamery offers these classes on location with their working schedule. So when the employees are off schedule, they have, I think they might even provide dinner for them. They have some food for them. They come have dinner, and then they have instruction to learn English. So the ESOL classes were well received. So I asked the creamery if they would be interested in offering Spanish for the employees who speak English. And they gave that a try, and they were very happy with the results of that. So now we have both going on. And the creamery has also extended these learning opportunities to the local dairy farm employees as well, learning the English. So cool. So Bella Nguyen, the technical training manager at Tillamook, really sums it up the best here. She says the collaboration between TCCA and TBCC for the ESOL Spanish classes for employees is a fantastic initiative aimed at enhancing workplace communication and inclusivity. By partnering with TBCC and offering these language classes, TCCA is empowering its employees to improve their English and Spanish language skills, fostering a more cohesive and supportive work environment. This partnership not only aids in professional development, but also enriches the cultural understanding among team members, ultimately contributing to a more dynamic and collaborative workplace. I think that's pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Any questions? Yes.
I'm just wondering what percent is it, or is there no way to measure what percentage of people who work, say, on the line and everything, were excited about taking the ESOL class?
I don't,
Any idea?
she never said the percentage, but I know that current class that started this term has 16 employees. And
The impact is significant.
Oh, my gosh.
And
Yes.
a little bit, removed from it now. The difference in how you feel, just knowing even one of your friends is getting a little bit more comfortable. It brings a whole lot of other people along. And when you look at it for the Spanish and the English impact, it's really a cultural game changer. And your safety goes up because your communication, right?
Don't you
And
have
it's interesting because there was a lot of resistance as a general to opening that Pandora's box, I guess, and because the concern is now you're suddenly, writing in both languages, printing everything, and they were overwhelmed with the thought of it. But the reality is people just want to be able to communicate, and just making it real and personal is a game changer. And all it takes is one to get it started, but 16 is pretty cool.
And didn't you also say, or overheard you talking earlier today with somebody about the people learning English and the people learning Spanish? Actually get together and practice
Yes,
with each
so-
other, so I mean,
Right.
that team building piece that comes along with this also, right, I think.
My nephew's a car salesman, and it popped up on my phone that he was doing a little recording. Sorry.
Joanne, this just makes me feel so good, because I actually did this about 35 years ago with parents getting, they were learning, we would have Latino parents go into one room and work on English, and the English go in another room and work on Spanish. And then we paired them up and watching, especially the fathers, because they were laughing like, your Spanish is so bad. And they would just have the ball. And it also just made everybody feel like, now I know what it feels like to be somewhere where I don't know the language. And they see you doing this. I mean, it's ongoing. I'm just glad to see that what we tried, well, we did it a long time ago, and it's crucial, it's still crucial.
Thanks. And going back to what Paul was saying, yes, so these classes are happening at the same time there. So one instructor is in one room, one's in the other room, and then they will bring them together from time to time so that they can practice back and forth. So that was great. It was a great opportunity to be able to have them running at the same time.
And is this voluntary or is it mandatory?
It's a contract training, so we
Are
the employees
Yes.
paid?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware, but I don't know for sure what they have set up.
And who do you use for the instructors?
So two of our adjunct instructors here that we have.
So you didn't have to go find new to accommodate that, any new instructors?
No, they just happened to fall in right in place when it was time. So Tom LeCalf, our faculty member, he started the very first class. And I'm trying to think, that was spring, a year ago spring. And so he was like, oh, I'd like to do this, but he was really getting quite the load. And then lo and behold, Dr. Katie Nelson came on board, and we're kind of like, hey, would you like to do this? Because she was just moved to the area and was looking for something to do. And so she worked out great. And then Maiko Alorte, I think is her last name. She's the one who's doing the Spanish class. And so same thing, she just kind of came in saying, I'm looking for something to do. And so it worked out great. And they both love it, and they all love her, or both of them. So it's great.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm actually, working up into next SAOs. I've been working on the backside of, I found, it's called NGen, ENGEN. And they're actually a learning platform for workplace upskilling for sure, like for Spanish speakers. So they cover like specific workplaces. So if somebody's in hospitality, or if somebody's in healthcare or whatever. And so I'm looking at that with some of the funds that I've generated, that I want to actually purchase that for a year, the subscription for a year. And I'd like to take that and go to different industries and kind of cover it around, like find someone like at the hospital, go to the hospital and say, do you have a couple of employees who like they might want to try this? And then just do that for free, just to pilot the program. So I kind of thought I'd check with the board first, if you all have anyone under your working, we might have some Spanish speaking employees that might, that you might like to offer that to them. I want to pilot that program this coming year just to see, and we can do it here at the college too for the students, because it's just helpful to learn the terminology of what you're around every day. So
There's a lot of subtleties and inclusion potential just within customer service. There's such a need for so many industries within our county to have solid customer service skills, and to think of it from an inclusive standpoint. Just because you're nice to somebody, or presenting the food or whatever, there's a whole lot more to it, and a lot of subtleties within that. And a lot of our bilingual folks, it's fun when we have tips and tricks from wherever they grew up. And me being from another country in Texas, like there's a whole lot of other things that we can share from that. And often as we have tourists from all over the world, making them to feel included, and comfortable. It's a skill set we just don't have. But it goes into the bilingual piece too, so. Can somehow build that in.
Do you know how many farmers are involved?
I don't know for sure how many farmers they have.
They were doing milking classes in Spanish for a while, but at the creamery.
And then in addition to that too, then I'm trying to find something that would be the flip side, you know, for us to learn Spanish. And just to find something that would work well for the college to make it more accessible for folks, because we have Tom McCaff does a lunch hour kind of study conversational Spanish. And Helica's gonna start one for winter term in the evenings via Zoom. So that might be something that more of us can kind of tap into, that evening class for just conversational Spanish. So we're getting there.
Nice, good.
This does relate a little bit, you know, those of you as board members that were present, we met with the creditor a little bit ago. You know, focusing on the serving piece of the Hispanic serving institution piece is it's things like this. This is one of the, I mean, the program Joanne just talked about are the ones I'm very proud about doing, because it is that serving piece, right? And I think really trying to be intentful in the programs and services we offer to show that we are dedicated to this work. And really respect the cultural diversity that we have here. It's really good work, Joanne.
Thank you. Hey, Joanne, will you please invite the board, if it's appropriate, to the evening conversational Spanish program?
Sure.
See?
Be great. Thank you.
I was thinking that.
Yeah. I had some Spanish in college, which was a really long time ago, but I failed to practice, and I love to shine it up.
I took some classes just so I could talk to them. Because I thought, because their eyes just lit up, I was, you know, very little, but enough that I cared. I guess. Oh, yeah. It's a huge difference.
The only female board in the state, but you could have meetings in Spanish.
Oh,
The only female bilingual.
But
There you go.
Yeah.
We could do French.
Okay, well, we don't have anyone from TBCC, is that correct? Correct. Okay. Then let's have the construction report.
Right, thank you. We met last week with some slides. So I'm just gonna give you a quick update. We're currently working and trying to capitalize on these beautiful dry days that we have right now. So we're trying to get completed with all the groundwork and stormwater work. They're just finishing the first of 2 in-ground stormwater detention tanks. They'll wrap up the main one tomorrow. And then they'll be focused on the building pad. So our footings for the main building are scheduled to start a week from Monday. And so that'll be the next focus for probably the next 5 to 7 working days, is to get that prepared for the concrete contractors that are be moving in. So they'll be digging out the elevator pit, forming up the footings and pouring those footings, and then moving on to the 28,000 feet of slab. At least half of that, about 14,000 feet of slab on the main floor, the concrete slab. Our big goal is getting ready for framing, which is tentatively scheduled for the first 2 weeks of December. So that's when we'll start to see walls.
Wow.
Super excited. So then they're going to focus back on stormwater. We're hoping to wrap up a lot of the stormwater infrastructure by kind of the mid to end of October. Trying to beat the groundwater and get as much in the ground as possible. So that's the quick update on HEB. CIP, we're making a lot of progress. All our documentation is complete. We're currently working through the City of Tillamook Planning Commission and getting through a use permit change. So that is our current focus, and we're hopeful to have that in the next 30 days. And then keep us on track for getting out to bid and getting contractors slightly out in construction, hopefully still within the end of the year. So that is our current focus is just getting the EDA portion out for documents, and there's some review times there that we're trying to get in for, and then get out for bid and contractor selection. So that's extent of my report. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jason.
You got that.
Take questions.
Are y'all getting a lot of questions now that it's all visible?
Starting to get.
Starting to.
Yeah.
It's still a little slow because we're still in the ground.
Yeah.
So a lot of the efforts you can't see, or it's done in backfield. Like we've had to maneuver traffic quite a bit in our parking lot because we've been running lines through the parking lot. We're trying to get that done before the weather. So there's not a big visual impact, but we're starting to get more and more questions.
Do you feel like as we go into the winter and more dark time, as kids are walking constantly to school or buses or what have you, are there other things that we need to consider for safety?
You mean currently?
Just the water. Yeah. This winter mainly. I don't know, I drive that road all the time and there's just always kids, walking for school.
Here, local, kids,
Yeah.
not our students.
Not our students.
Yeah, I think we have to be more mindful about just getting the word out about, the traffic. I mean, we're hopeful that the amount of activity that we have on Third Street now coming and going with the crosswalk will slow down traffic a little bit. I don't know that it happens actually, but yeah, I do think we need to be mindful.
Maybe even lighting just to think about it as
Yeah.
it starts getting dark early.
Right.
And the construction guys have plenty of lighting available.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's something that always makes me nervous on that road.
It's going down.
Yeah.
Is there any lighting, a possibility to put up any lighting on the corner of Marl and Brookfield?
We can definitely look into it. We're currently talking to TPUD on Third Street. With
Yeah.
adding some street
Yeah.
lights because it's so dark from
Yeah.
kind of the east down to the corner here, but we can definitely look at going
Hey, those
to the south.
blinking lights work really good.
They do.
You can see them go. Crosswalk.
If they're in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
They're not.
Traffic is starting to slow down a little bit. So what I've noted, this is mainly Third Street, is it's a lot of local traffic. And people are starting to get a little bit used to the crosswalk. I think our goal here in the next 60 days is to start the dialogue with maybe looking at what we can do on Third Street as well as Marloff with maybe, we want to try to slow traffic down.
Yeah.
It is very fast and there's a lot of big rigs that go down Third Street. So we're starting to open that dialogue of trying to figure out how to slow that down.
Well, can it be made a school zone? Even though they drive by Wilson School like crazy and it's a school zone and it's almost neat.
That's a current question we're working on.
Yeah, because if our school zone, it's 20 miles. But that's during school hours. Yeah, which here.
It would help though.
It would help.
Even though we're here all hours.
The police need to be. Sitting there, picking them up, it's making them aware that because we did a ticket.
But there's always been, I think things will be better when the facility's done, but there's always kids walking from getting dropped off here on the corner by these apartments and walking over to those apartments along that road. It's unimproved and I see it all the time. It's dangerous.
You could talk to the school district about that. That's just our house.
Jason, is go ahead.
No, there's not.
Is Third Street at the crosswalk, is that city or county?
That is a county road and I believe I don't know which side of the line it's on because the line is right there.
Okay.
I do know it's a county roadway, but I think the city line is right to the west of the crosswalk, but I'm not quite sure.
So I imagine that you've got to know Chris Lady a little bit, Director of
Very
Public Works.
much.
So I suggest that you ask Chris if we have an electronic reader board like your speed is, because that really slows people down.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, they do it over at the high school. I know it does. It does.
Yeah.
And I think, is it Tillamook Police, they have one too that we might be able to get them to put up.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of it's habit. And, you know, there's just a lot more, people are starting to realize
Yeah.
that the crosswalk flashing light is helping a lot.
Yeah.
So like a flashing reader board would make a huge impact. So I can definitely get with Chris and talk about that, because me and Chris have been already kind of going back and forth with some of these questions, but that's where, you know, I'm gonna start is with him, especially on the county roadways and what we can do to maybe help slow that down.
Great, okay. I know we have some of those, the county has some of those, and they move them around,
Sure,
so,
okay, I'll definitely do that.
great. I wanted to ask about the CIT building at our retreat. We heard about concerns about the septic system.
Yes.
So what, do you have an update about that?
I do, so we do have oil in the septic tank. We're trying to get a firm out of Portland to come and test to see the extent of it. We're currently waiting for them to respond. We have not been able to source anyone local that can help us. So we're just trying to get the experts to get over here to help us remedy the problem, is really what we're kind of in a holding pattern.
Okay.
What our thought is most likely when they moved out or utilized it, that they may have dumped oil down the floor drain, which ended up in the septic tank.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mary David.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. To the mid-size meeting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the financial report.
Okay, so I'm just gonna tie my financial report a little bit to the construction. So far, we have been spending a couple of excuse me, $2 million from our fee. That was the bond fund. And as we spend that money, we can send a request to the hedge and ask them to give us the money toward the $8 million bond match. Like I said, we still have $13 million left, and that is earning us about $60,000 in per month in terms of the revenue. I'm sorry, the interest. So so far, I think we're doing good. We're on budget, and that's for that. As for the general fund, I provided something in the packet that, again, this one is as of the end of August, and this report, and it shows the expenses as of the end of August. It seems like we are under budget again, or some in some categories you see in terms of expenditures, expenses are less than 16%, which is 2 months of the fiscal year completed. We were able to clean up our tuition of the summer and move on to the current fiscal year, because summer is a little bit tricky because it falls right on the border of the 2 fiscal years. So we have to do some cleaning up and moving it around, and we did, and that is also included in our revenue for this report. And the beginning fund balance is changing, and it's going to still change a little bit because of, as we find things and clean them up and move the expenses based on the date back and forth in between the 2 fiscal years. This is going to fluctuate a little bit, but I don't think it's going to go down by much. So it seems like we have a little bit more saving compared to what we budgeted. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any questions.
Thank you.
Questions?
Okay.
What's your latest and greatest new process that's making everything better?
Yes. My brilliant idea.
You're brilliant.
I've been waiting. So what, as we are fixing the problems, we are putting processes in place that hopefully we won't make. I mean, we may make mistakes, right? It happens, but my goal is to not make the same mistake more than once. So it's one of the major problems that we had, it was our payroll. So what we learned is that we weren't following, J1 is very finicky. if you don't follow a process exactly how it is designed to process it, it's gonna make it big mess. One of the things that I've been dealing with that it's a lot better today compared to when I left Friday is that our accounts payable seemed like the numbers didn't match. I had a difference of over $1 million that I didn't know how to fix it, I know where the money is, and now the report shows it's a lot better. Like before I came here, I just ran another aging report and another trial balance, and things are a lot better. But most of these are that, and I'm talking to the consultants, and we're going to a bunch of trainings with James about experts. And it's so important that when you have a date for a transaction, that you carry that date completely through. So some of these problems that I had, the differences that I was seeing, was that we paid a vendor at a certain time, but we recorded the payment at a different time, and then didn't tie these two together. So once we know what is causing it, it's much easier to fix it. And it's much easier to say, okay, this is the process. We're gonna do this. This is 1, 2, 3, 2, 10, 20, 15, whatever we have to go. These are the steps that we're gonna take when we are processing a payment of any sort or receiving a revenue. So right now, basically, we're working on team building, some training with the new team members that we have, and also fixing. And honestly, I am still learning J1. I'm close to 1 year. November 6th will be my full year. I didn't tell you that it is 11 months and 3 days today. So it's getting a lot better. The workload shouldn't be as much as it is even today. It should get a lot better, but unfortunately, because I mean, even though I started in November, but was taking me a few months to kind of know what I'm doing, what I'm dealing with, and then I had to do the cleaning up. Like when we were talking about the budget, this is my 10th budget here in 1 year. So it's the workload should get better after this audit, because by the audit, I should be caught up with the past stuff that either weren't done or weren't done properly or whatever they were. But so far, still, it's pretty busy for all of us in the business office.
Sure. Although, Genzabar is new for you.
Yes.
Are you able to, create like the budgeting templates or shells that you're accustomed to?
Yeah, so when I started here, we didn't have the budget for FY24 in the system. So that was my first round of getting used to J1, because everything was done. The board approved it, it was adopted, everything was done. It just wasn't in J1. So that gave me a painful experience. but it was an experience to get it into the system and learn how the system works and how the budget module in Genzabar interacts with the expenses on the other end or the revenues on the other end. So I had that experience, which I think was great. And then we had the FY25 that we had to, as we were working on the audit for FY23, we were working on budget for FY25. So I think I'm pretty comfortable. Actually, I think I am very comfortable with most of the modules, the financial modules. The only one that I haven't worked in myself is the payroll module for processing the payroll. So I work with all the reporting tools that we have in J1 available, and I'm pretty good at it. But still, they are doing an upgrade. A major upgrade is coming to the J1 web, and that is going to involve more trainings and more learning. But as of today, I feel like I know how to dig into J1 and find things and then see if they make sense in terms of accounting, the theory of accounting, if they make sense or not. I hope I can get even better, but I'm very comfortable with it. So I'm ready. Yes.
And I
Thank you.
think that's you asked what the magic was or secret sauce or whatever, I don't know how you phrased it, but you know, I look at it from the standpoint of stability and talent, right? And, you know, while Sherry's been here still almost a year, I would say really it's only been probably since May that you probably, you know, it takes a while to learn new systems, structures and everything, get in place where you can really now apply some of that knowledge, right? But so the stability piece has been incredible in the business office. Also the talent, I mean, Sherry brings some talent, but she's also surrounding herself by some talent too, right? We've had a couple of good hires in there recently that have been really been able to help out, and they're really starting to form a good team and work together, and that makes all the difference. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Okay, the president's report.
All right, well, I've got a report in the packet there. I do want to highlight a few things just to kind of showcase some of the good folks that we have here and the work that they do. Since our last board meeting, we have had fall in service week. Well, it seems like it's been a long time ago. Here's when I say this because time's constant, but it does seem like it's been a while. I think one of the highlights of fall in service week, I mean, we had a new barbecue thanks to Jason, and that went well. I didn't get accused of serving raw hamburger, so that was helpful. But the engagement with the strategic plan, we had, you know, campus-wide engagement with the strategic plan and in service, and I think it was really good to get everybody in the room where they can have a conversation about how they see themselves contributing to our report. So that was really exciting. During that week, we also had new student orientation. So that was, I think, a highlight of that week as well. We were nervous about that with parking and all of that, but I think we had about 120 folks here, 130 folks here, and we still had parking. So it worked out well. We are smack in the middle of our mid-cycle accreditation site visit. Thank you all for coming. I feel that's gone really well. We have a really nice team. They seem to be engaged and really trying to understand the institution and provide any kind of early alerts to us if there are things that might stick out that they think we ought to be focusing on. Fall term well underway. From an enrollment point of view, we're looking at a few things that don't really sit well with us that we're trying to figure out a cause and effect around. One of them is a decline in a lot of our career technical education programs and trying to ferret out where that's coming from, because at one time we've got the nursing program that came on that falls in that category that's boosting things up, but yet we're not seeing the growth in there that we think we should see because of that. So we're going to dig into some of those data to get a sense of what might be contributing to that decline. Nursing program cruising along, as I've mentioned before. Our students are having an incredible time over at the Adventist Hospital. The staff there have been great in welcoming them in, and it's nice to kind of showcase some of the talent we have here. So Shannon, anything you do over there or you did to make that a good place for students to come learn, it's appreciated. The second cohort application has closed. I think I mentioned before, we had 25 applicants for 16 positions. 20 of them are local, 5 of them are from outside of Tillamook County. 19 are female, 6 are male. So we'll be looking forward to that continued process as they interview them and drill down and accept 16. They'll probably accept 16 to 18 of those applicants. College Council met in September. I wanted to just highlight some of the work that College Council and leadership did, where I think it really showcases where the priorities of the college are. We brought, you all approved a leave policy last year. We got all of the revisions to the administrative rules done for that and moved them through leadership and on to College Council. And this was a group of procedures that had an equity lens review, and we had an extensive report out from the Diversity Equity Committee about how we could make leave policies or procedures, in this case, a little bit more inclusive. We did ultimately broaden the definition of family where we could, obviously where there are legal ramifications for the state or the feds, we couldn't, but for any of our policies that impact the word family in them, we made that family very inclusive. Really pretty much almost to the sense of that if someone can define a person as their family member and they feel that's important to be able to take some kind of paid leave, we want to be able to honor that request. One of the other things that we put into ARs were under bereavement, that family definition obviously was expanded there. But we added a reproductive loss leave to that. So if an individual did have a reproductive loss event, miscarriage, failed surrogacy, failed adoption, whatever, we wanted to be able to provide the same kind of bereavement leave that we would provide otherwise. So I feel really good about that. Yeah, it was really, that was some feel good work. Yeah. So that was really nice. We did have our board retreat, and I thought it was productive, so thank you all for that. And I am sincere when I tell people this is the best board ever. And I feel very fortunate to work with you all, but more importantly, I think the college is better off because you're engaged with the work, so thank you for that. We had Oregon President's Council meeting last week. Just to kind of give you sort of a highlight into some of the work that the presidents feel is important sort of system-wide. Excuse me. We developed 3 work groups for a 3-year plan. The 3 work groups are work centered around equitable outcomes. That's one work group. So things like developmental education, redesign, guided pathways work, transfer work, basically looking at creating pathways for the students and making those transitions as equitable as we can. I am on that particular work group. There's also a work group on looking more at college going culture and things we can do to create college going culture in the communities where we live and work. And then there's a work group on economic and workforce development, again, looking at changes in policies and procedures statewide that might make it a little bit easier for colleges to be engaged in economic and workforce development to fund students for that. There's some big movements on the non-credit side as far as workforce development. Yeah, we know there are limitations for financial aid for that, so we're looking at ways to do that. And then there's some work going on to look at two things. We've got some external consultants to work on. One is shared services, where there's a lot of push from the state legislation, I think, to look at efficiencies and eliminate redundancies in higher education. That's a little challenging there, but we are looking at contracting with a firm to do an inventory for us and best practices around shared services and programs. What are we already doing? What does that look like? What could we do differently? And then also there's a lot of angst around transfer and the legislation that was put forward around these major transfer maps. And we are consulting with a group to actually look at the transfer legislation to try to get a read on what was the true intent for that with that legislation. Because while the 17 community colleges, I think, are working really well to try to honor the intent of that legislation, our 7 transfer partners aren't necessarily doing that. Yeah, so we're looking at can we get some independent analysis of the legislation that might give us some leverage, at least with the Higher Education Coordinating Commission or the state legislation to sort of force the hand of some of our 4-year partners. Also had an OCCA board meeting. I think some significant work. I think Betsy passed out kind of that there. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
No, I'm just passing these out. Usually I send them online and I would put it online, but so much has been happening, so I just got really into it and I just decided to print this out. So you could read about everything that's been going on with OCCA. It's definitely a working organization here for the good of all our community colleges. So it gives you past what's been happening in the past. There was a board training, and that was on September 7th. I went to that and let's see.
Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew was there. What am I saying? Andrew, there you are. Yeah, and I think it was
extremely valuable. And then, of course, the conference is coming up at the beginning of November. And I don't know how many people are planning to go.
We have quite a contingent
Oh,
one.
Great.
I think
Yeah.
we'll have to be well represented.
Oh, you'll love it. It's really energizing. Everyone I've been to, and I've been to almost every one since I've been here, and it's November 6th through 8th, and it's at Salishan, so it's not in Central Oregon, it's nearby, right nearby here. So, as I said, obviously, there is, lunch and learn sessions coming up again, and other, let's see what else, virtual advocacy training that's on October 10th, this Thursday, which is all online, so, the address is right there to sign up for it. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
I had a question about the conference.
Yeah.
Lori, that ticket that was sent, that goes for everything. So we just,
Yeah.
gotta show up with that.
Yeah, dinner included.
It said 1 and 2, so that's what.
So some I purchased 2 at a time. Shannon, and I think Andrea was probably
Okay.
purchased together, but Kathy's was purchased by itself.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, that'll be a big time. OCCA also appointed members to standing committees. I was appointed to be on the legislative committee. Lori and I both were appointed to be on the member services committee with OCCA. And I also serve on the diversity, equity, and inclusion committee with OCCA. So I'm looking forward to getting engaged in that work too.
I'm on the nominating committee.
Oh, good.
And
Paul, once we move to diligent,
Yes,
like these types of things become beautiful because it's all in there.
it's all in there.
right, it'll be great.
It's so easy to search and accessible.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're looking forward to doing that. And yeah.
Betsy, thank you for representing us.
Yes.
You do a great job, and I am grateful for your passion for it.
Yes.
Well, it keeps growing and growing in a good way, the whole organization. So we have a brand new executive director now in the state of Oregon, Adam Lee. So things are certainly moving in the right direction in many ways. Excellent. You're welcome.
Just a couple more things and I'll be brief here. So Peter and Joanne met with some representative of Northwest Oregon Works, really looking at some partnerships with them. So looking forward to that. Couple reminders, we're still at the tail end of Hispanic Heritage Month, and Friday night from 6 to 8, we will have Latinx Hispanic Appreciation evening here at the college. So if you want to come by, I think it should be fun and entertaining there. I'm not sure exactly what all's playing, but I'm sure it'll be good. We hope to recruit there for a Latinx advisory team or group as well to help us as we really want to get focused on the serving of the underserved communities. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I just wanted to draw your attention to that. We are organizing Go Purple Day. I think, is that, Britta, is that everybody does that? Is that a national thing on October?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we have put a message out to all our employees on October 17th that they would like to wear purple. I would certainly love that as a symbol of peace, courage, survival, honor, and personal dedication to domestic violence awareness. And we hope to take a photo of all our purple fans Thursday the 17th at 11 o'clock. If you want to participate, that's good there. And lastly, World Mental Health Day is October 10th. So again, just to highlight attention to some needs in our community there as well.
We're also acknowledging Indigenous Peoples' Day on Monday the 14th.
Monday the 14th,
Yeah.
great.
Great.
Couple upcoming dates, Bond Oversight Committee meeting. Some of you will be invited to that. That'll be a week from today in the afternoon. Britta has her annual scholarship recognition event for the TBCC Foundation and Elder Davey event, and that's Friday, October 18th, 3:30.
At 5 p.m. at the Officers Mess Hall,
Yeah.
Port of Tillamook Bay. You can RSVP until Friday, the 11th. I think we have like 40 something students confirmed.
Oh,
so far.
that's spectacular.
So
Yeah.
since I've been here, it's the most that I've ever attended.
That's awesome.
It's called
The
Yes.
bond oversight committee meeting was moved to.
Oh, it was moved. That's right. I printed this after we moved it. You remember when it is?
22nd.
22nd is bond over. Never mind. 22nd is bond oversight. Thank you. We have our head commissioner visit, on Monday, December 7th. I suspect that they will stick around to the board a little bit as well. So that'll be kind of fun to meet the, chair of the commission. And our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be Monday, November 4th. Just a couple kudos here. A lot happened in since our last board meeting from the standpoint of, our students and welcoming students for a new year. So we'd really like to give some kudos to the entire student services team, in particular Kelly McKeon and Bailey Patel for the work they did on student orientation. That was great. I really hate to do, it's weird to do a capture. I have to say that I felt the in-service this year was just really well. So I definitely want to give kudos to employees for the leadership team for helping to organize that, but for employees for participating. And we had a lot of participation. I thought that was really good. Lori's been working overtime over the past month, taking care of the college and myself. So amazing support to the president and the board. And also I'd like to acknowledge Aaron for the work since we have our mid-cycle visit going on here. I know that was a lot to shepherd, so thank you for that. You did a good job with our mid-cycle. And you can leave 15 minutes early.
But you have a parking spot.
But you can park here.
Nice job, Erin. Enjoy that 15 minutes.
We'll spend it all in one place.
And we're not paying for it.
And that's my report.
Thank you. Questions for Paul?
I mean, I don't have a question. I just, have an obsession with data. And you understand.
I do too.
But there are
There's
so many ways that we can get information. And survey is the hardest way to gather data. And now that I can read all the way across the room again, we strive to be relationship oriented, innovative, student centered, equitable.
Like, why you got that?
And scholarly. And scholarly. Excellent. There's very few things that are more impactful for us than student belonging.
Amen.
And the way that we measure it, I think we could like that whole innovative. Like pastries with Paul, as Dr. Paul, as we start the new year. And you facilitate some of these questions with the student government in leadership. And Erin does nothing but be a fly on the wall and kind of listen. But your interactions and you'll come out of that with some action plan, something. But that student government is so exciting and they have something to work on. And they can come through that with some realistic measurable data that can be worked on with everyone.
That's a good idea. They're the peers.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Peers will talk to peers.
And it's not you facilitating or asking, if they are, it's a lot less comfortable.
Yep.
But you need to be there.
Yeah.
With the wisdom and Erin can do nothing but listen and watch and learn.
And we're hoping, we have student government elections, I think, in the next week or two. And we're hoping that we may have a student body president whose mother might have some kind of.
She didn't run. She started the bachelor program with Lane Community College, so.
Got recruited away.
Oh, exciting. And they're trying to get her on the.
So she's leaving us?
Yes. With another community college.
Why am I the last to know?
They all. She is phenomenal. To be great wherever she goes.
To think, you know,
No, I appreciate
and
that.
working with staff doesn't always have to be that cumbersome.
Right. And say, yeah, no, and I appreciate thinking about, we're always trying or fighting against that small end, you know, but.
I think.
Yeah, switching it around and thinking about that as a strength, right? We are small, we are small, yeah. No, I appreciate that, Cameron.
Yeah.
So, thanks,
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
I'm on this country in two weeks. So I think I mentioned it to you before, but I'm gonna get it right. So
That's exciting.
I'm gonna try to do it, but it's like 2 o'clock in the morning.
So you're gonna be gone in France for 2 months?
No, a month and a half.
Oh, good for you.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Great.
How disappointing.
That's how that house is. That's what
Wonderful. Good for you.
This will be our 4th time.
How was the forum?
Well, mission.
Was that cool? Yes, it's just fun. What? It's fun. That's our bottom.
Were there candidates for all the positions that are open at the PUD? Were they there?
Only the ones that is in South.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yep, so it was specific to
Gotcha.
that. Stuck area.
Bless you.
Cameron's running for the PUD board. in case
Yeah.
everybody doesn't know.
Yeah, we got to turn the big vote. It's only South, District 1.
And quickly, I'm sorry, what is Zentangle?
What's what?
Zentangle.
Oh, Zentangle. Oh, it's fabulous art.
Oh,
It's really cool.
it's just, it's a way of learning how to draw, just very repetitive, slow. So it's actually more about the process of just relaxing. It almost puts you into a meditative state while you're drawing. And so it's not that you're trying to draw something, but that you're actually just tapping into quiet time. And
It's right in my eye. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Shannon.
Is that Zentangle?
Something, but it's not quite, but it's something, no, no.
I offer it here every Tuesday from 12:15 to 1:15.
That's very cool.
Lunch break, stop by. Do the public.
That's great.
Stresses me out.
Is there, your name is spelled me calling, but I'm not.
Oh, is
it? Look
I
good.
didn't know if you.
Look at the other.
Oh, the other side.
Good.
Just, I mean.
Oh, missing an L.
Yeah.
I have one more announcement and request. The October 17th is the Great American Shakeout. And I hope that as a college, we will be observing the Great American Shakeout October 17th at 10:17 and 10:17. The county is supporting a countywide tsunami evacuation drill. Of course, you're not in the evacuation zone here, thank goodness. But we encourage folks who live in the tsunami evacuation zone to understand your route, look at your family plan, consider putting together a to-go bag, and take advantage of the Great American Shakeout to practice safety in our community. And so if you're willing and able, please observe the Great American Shakeout at 10:17 on that date.
Yeah, and is that, will we be wearing purple?
You will. Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, anything else? No? All right, then we are adjourned at 6:35. All right, thanks, everyone. Oh, wonderful, very fancy. I'm so happy for you to get to do that.
Very supportive, yeah.
Yeah.